On November 17, 1978, 4 teenagers were working at Burger Chef, a restaurant in Speedway, Indiana. Those 4 were Jayne Friedt, Ruth Shelton, Mark Flemmonds, and Daniel Davis. A little background on each of these individuals before we proceed. Jayne Friedt was born on May 2, 1958. She had been a resident of the Indianapolis area since about 1970. Jayne took a job at Burger Chef and had been working there for several years as of 1978, earning the role of an assistant manager. Jayne was described as being a very nice person and being dedicated to hard work. Jayne was apparently known as, quote, "Sweet Jayne," unquote, by customers because of her kind personality. Ruth Shelton was born on December 19, 1960. She attended high school at Northwest High School in Indianapolis, where she was a junior honor student in 1978. Ruth planned to pursue computer science in college and studied business and mathematics in school. Ruth was known to be very creative, enjoying piano, voice lessons, and making things out of macrame. Prior to working at Burger Chef, Ruth had worked at Dunkin' Donuts. Mark Flemmonds was born on December 31, 1961. In 1978, Mark was a sophomore at Speedway High School. He was the youngest of 7 children. He had been employed at Burger Chef for 3 months prior to the events of November 17, 1978. Mark was described as having a, quote, "neat appearance and good attitude," unquote. Daniel Davis, also known as Danny, was born on September 6, 1962. In 1978, Daniel was a junior at Decatur Central High School. Daniel was an honor student and was especially interested in aviation and photography. Sometime before midnight on November 18, 1978, all 4 disappeared from their workplace. When a friend of theirs stopped by at about midnight on November 18, 1978, the restaurant was empty, the back door was ajar, and $581 were missing. When the teenagers' parents started calling the police to report their kids missing, the police initially believed that the kids may have just taken off with the money. Because of this, the restaurant was allowed to be cleaned, basically destroying any physical evidence that was present. This theory also started to come apart when Jayne's vehicle was found about a block from the Speedway Police Department and was disproved entirely, in perhaps the worst way possible, on November 19, 1978, when the bodies of all 4 employees were found, still wearing their Burger Chef uniforms. Their remains were found in a wooded area near Indiana 135. The teenagers had been violently killed. Ruth and Daniel had been shot multiple times. Mark had suffered violent blows to his head and face and succumbed after choking on his own blood, and Jayne had been stabbed. The community was shocked and disturbed by the violent killings. Investigators located 2 teenagers who stated that they had seen 2 men behind the restaurant shortly before the abductions likely occurred. Under hypnosis, the teenagers provided law enforcement with their recollections of the men's appearances. Investigators reportedly received hundreds of calls with tips and theories. A reward was offered by Burger Chef Inc. for the arrest and conviction of the killers, and despite massive amounts of public interest and engagement, the leads eventually began to fade away. Even multiple suspects came up over the years, including a confession that was later taken back, but these were all eventually ruled out or unable to be verified with adequate evidence. Several theories have been proposed about what happened that night, including the following. There had been a string of restaurants in the area that were robbed, and it is possible that the Burger Chef was connected to those robberies. Perhaps one of the victims recognized the perpetrator or perpetrators, and it was their decision to kill them to destroy any chance of being identified. This could explain why the victims were killed. It's possible that they were killed at another scene because the perpetrator or perpetrators wanted to slow down the identification of a crime having occurred. In 2013, the detective managing the case at the time indicated that he believed that he knew who had committed the murders. He told the Indianapolis Star, quote, "I have a group of individuals I think are responsible, but without evidence, it's just my opinion," unquote. Evidence that he identified as being critical to the investigation included a .38 caliber handgun, which is the type of firearm that was used to kill Ruth and Daniel, and the handle of the knife that was used to kill Jayne, as the handle had broken off. The FBI eventually released their files about the case, providing more details about their investigation early on in the case and information from individuals that had not been known by the public. Kevin Greenlee, an attorney and a co-host of the podcast The Murder Sheet, was instrumental in this request for information and outlined some of the information present in these documents in his podcast. Additionally, documentaries have been made revolving around this case, including Murders at the Burger Joint from Investigation Discovery and The Speedway Murders by Vertical. control. Despite the amount of coverage and the amount of upfront interest from the public in this case, it remains unsolved. If you have any information, please contact Indiana State Police at 1-317-899-8577 or 1-800-582-8440.